What's going on, family? What's going on? And welcome to The Meaning. So we're going to take a look at this case out of New York right here. And it just goes to further highlight that if you believe that there are rules in this game called life, there are none. This is your life. You live it how you want to live it. You play the game how you want to play it. But if you believe that there are rules, there aren't any. Let's take a look at this. We'll be right back to take a look at this case from New York.
This NYPD lieutenant made $400,000 in 1 year, over $200,000 in overtime alone. Let's talk about it.
$200,000 in overtime? God damn. What'd she do?
This is Lieutenant Epps from the New York City Police Department. And Lieutenant Epps is making some serious money. Now, Epps has been with the department for 19 years and is set to retire soon. Now, before we get into the story, let me walk it back a little bit. This is the New York Post, and they did an expose on a cop who was making an astronomical amount of overtime pay.
Lieutenant Quantisha Epps claimed to work more than 1,600 hours of overtime, a staggering total uncovered last month by the New York Post.
$1,600?
It allowed Epps to pull in more than $204,000 in overtime
pay,
than her damn on top salary. Of her base salary of around $164,000, plus fringe benefits, which put her past the $400,000 mark in 2024. According to payroll records, her boss made around $292,000.
Now, one thing that raised a lot of concerns about this amount of overtime was Epps' job. See, Epps wasn't on the street arresting criminals. She had an administrative job in the NYPD's Chief of Department's office. Now, this meant as a lieutenant, she worked directly for NYPD's Chief of Department, Jeffrey Madrick. Now, Epps was working about 115 to 120 hours of overtime every month. And even cops on the street were shocked. For instance, this one Bronx cop said, "What administrative work requires you to stay there 115 to 120 hours every effing month to apply for that type of money?" Now, it's interesting to note that Epps had a fantastic career with the NYPD. She was even celebrated by the department being a 3-time cancer survivor.
I've had 2 bouts with ovarian cancer and my latest challenge with brain cancer. I'm going to be a 3-time cancer survivor. I don't have to remind myself of this. Their mind doesn't even allow me the space to remind myself because they keep me.
So, let me get this straight. So, in this woman's game of life, she's a cute woman, very pretty lady, been in the police force for 19 years. She has beat cancer 3 times. In this woman's game of life, beating cancer 3 times wasn't good enough for her. You have to damn falsify overtime? Beat cancer 3 times wasn't good enough for you, shorty? 19 years in making 100 and plus thousand a year wasn't good enough for you? You need to fabricate overtime as well? Man, ain't no rules in this, and we get greedy. We get greedy and fucked up.
Showered in love.
Now, with that amount of overtime, investigators started looking at if all of this was legit. There were allegations that Epps was just falsifying her overtime payments and that she was even signing her own overtime, allowing her to rack up these massive amounts.
Wow.
Now, after looking into it, the NYPD said, first thing we're going to do is stop all your overtime. So Epps was barred from doing any more overtime until they figured out what was going on.
The department has now officially launched an internal affairs probe into Epps, which includes looking into allegations of falsified overtime hours, signing off on time slips herself, as well as complaints of her coming into work late, leaving early, or not showing up at all.
Then, in another shocking move, Epps announced that she was retiring early.
Now, the Post has learned Epps filed for retirement this week, when she was just shy of 20 years with the department.
Now, because the money was funny, the NYPD decided to put Epps back on patrol, number one. Number two, stop all her overtime. And number three, suspend her without pay until they figured out what was going on. So the walls started closing in on Lieutenant Epps. And then she said, hey, I have a story to tell. She then makes a claim that her boss, the chief of the department, was essentially paying her overtime for sexual favors.
Bombshell allegation of sex.
Damn. Paying you overtime for sexual favors. What kind of pussy you got, girl? $200,000 worth of overtime? That's off the chain. You throwing that thing back. That cancer pussy off the chain.
Sexual misconduct on the job. Former Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry is accused of trading sexual favors for overtime.
Lieutenant Quathisha Epps alleges between June 2023 and this past Monday, Madry engaged in efforts to coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities. She says that included intercourse in the office. According to publicly available payroll data, Lieutenant Epps made a salary last year of over $164,000, but after overtime was factored in, she took home more than $400,000. After refusing his advances in October, she says Madry retaliated by orchestrating an intentionally manipulated monthly overtime report, which resulted in a criminal and internal investigation opened against her. Her attorney adds systemic failures within the NYPD allowed Chief Madry's predatory behavior to continue unchecked, culminating in his promotion to the department's highest uniform position by Mayor Eric Adams, despite a well-documented history of misconduct and abuse of power.
So the chief is playing his own life game as well, right? Theirs just so happened to intersect. So the chief life game wasn't enough for him, boy. He was like, shit, I done made it to be chief. You know, they said what he made, $190,000, right? Prestigious position. Them been on TV numerous times. You the police chief making some bread. You mean to tell me you couldn't just pay off another prostitute or some other chick on the side that ain't got shit to do with the business that you work in? Come on, man. I mean, but it is tempting. That workplace romance be tempting, I guess, when we all done heard or been involved in a workplace romance. It's hot. It is what it is. I guess the allure of her being so well known, so strong and powerful within the community, and beating cancer 3 times, you know, power is a thing. People love that power, and people want to take that power. So shit, the chief wanted some of that power. The power he had just wasn't enough, I guess. But how didn't you think that $200,000 in overtime pay was going to go overlooked?
So Epps said, yes, she was making that overtime, but it was a payoff from her boss to perform sexual favors. And she was good at it because she made over $200,000 in overtime. So now what happens with this boss? Well, he resigns in disgrace.
Jeffrey Madry resigned suddenly last night, and now federal investigators are looking into allegations of sexual harassment and hefty overtime payments involving the former high-ranking official.
Jeff Madry, the highest-ranking uniformed member, abruptly resigned as chief of department Friday amid startling accusations of sexual misconduct. Madry's resignation comes on the same day NYPD Lieutenant Quathisha Epps told the New York Post Madry, quote, demanded sexual favors in exchange for massive amounts of overtime, end quote. Now, we did reach out to Epps and her attorney for comment, but they've not responded.
Now, Chief Madry is saying all of this is BS. He never assaulted anyone. He never harassed anyone.
No.
And the fact that this officer, Lieutenant Epps, got caught falsifying overtime is the reason why she's making these allegations up. Matter of fact, here is Madry explaining it.
I can tell you Madry's attorney, Landros Landrew, told News 4 his client denies allegations of any sexual interaction and wasn't even involved in approving Epps' overtime. Going on to say, quote, it's very sad when someone gets caught with their hand.
So, bro, you just went too far. You just went too far. I believe you in the fact that it wasn't any type of she went along with it, put it like that. It wasn't sexual harassment. You didn't have to coerce her. That money did enough coercing, I'm sure. So I believe you in that fact. But you saying that there was no sexual interaction at all? Come on, man. Come on, man. Let's be real.
And in the cookie jar like Lieutenant Epps and gets suspended for suspicion of stealing overtime. That she is now trying to bring someone else down with these lies. End quote.
But my question is, if these are all lies and BS, then why did he resign? Why resign if these are all lies? You hold the fort and say, okay, check it out, right? I'm open to the investigation. But here is why Madry says he's resigning.
Meantime, Landro says he's unaware of any investigation. But when asked why his client resigned, he said the former top cop was already planning to retire soon because he just became a lawyer and will go into private practice, deciding to walk away now amid the allegations.
Now, Epps did an interview with the New York Post and said that she was actually facing foreclosure and was desperate to keep her home when she decided to get in this sex for overtime scheme. Now, Epps even said in her complaint that the chief made fun of the fact that she was doing.
How much is your mortgage? Because you done got $400,000. How much is your mortgage? That bitch better be paid off by now.
A sex for overtime scheme to save her house. While he was banging her, allegedly he said, hey, we're going to save your house. Now, in the interview, Epps also said that she felt that she had no choice. She complied under coercion and that she did it, obviously, for the money, but also because of the power dynamics.
All right. So anyway, yeah, that's that. And if you think that there are rules to this game called life, you are mistaken. The only rules to your game are the rules in which you make up as you go along. And everyone's rules are constantly changing, and no one plays by the same rules. And depending on what level of game you're at or you're on, you have different opportunities to do different things. Some seem very enticing, like this situation for them, but somehow in life, isn't there always something negative attached to it? Isn't there always a penalty, a downfall? Interesting how life is. Till next time, keep it real. Fuck being positive. Let's be real.